Hello, hello, this is Fear Dragon coming at you with another StarCraft 2 netcast. Today we have another Zerg versus Zerg, so let's go ahead and introduce these players. Down here in the bottom side of Metropolis, we have the red Zerg player. His name begins with an ED, so I don't know if that's a clan, but we have EDkiyoshi. Obviously a part of the Kyoshi warriors from Avatar. A little bit surprised he didn't pick the green color, but his opponent up in the top side of Metropolis, we have the blue Zerg. His name is Ialgo. Now lately we have been seeing quite a few ninjas involved in all of these StarCraft games, so we're going to see what kind of ninja tactics Kiyoshi can pull out against Ialgo in the Zerg versus Zerg matchup. The nice thing that we have seen so far is that there has been no incredibly early spawning pool, nothing like a 10 pool, 9 pool, 8 pool, 7 pool, 6 pool. Very hard to do a 5 pool. You can do a 5 pool by deciding to save up the money to build a gas geyser, then building a spawning pool and canceling the gas geyser. I don't know why you would do it, but I guess you could. You could also kill off a couple of your workers and do a 4 pool or a 3 pool. But we're not going to see that today. Instead, we're going to see a gas geyser from Kiyoshi. It's looking like the very standard 14-14, pretty common in this matchup, and that will allow him to build that spawning pool and start mining from this gas geyser immediately once it finishes, and he will have enough for Zergling speed once that spawning pool finishes. At the same time, we don't see anything down from Ialgo. Now we see the hatchery about to go down, and that means that Ialgo is going to be in a very good position if he can hold off any early aggression from Kiyoshi. We're going to also have to see whether or not Kiyoshi does decide to go for his early expansion. One other important thing to note is that Kiyoshi is just relying on Overlord scouting at this point. And I do believe it is the same story for Ialgo. No, it looks like Ialgo actually decided to move all the way down with the drone. That is going to give him the advantage in knowing that there is no expansion down. He's likely going to know that he has to hold off any early aggression that Kiyoshi does decide to do. Now we do see that the drones in the gas geyser have been taken out, and that gas or that speed research has begun, so Kiyoshi is going to be looking to be in a good position. We do see that Ialgo has started mining gas of his own, and his spawning pool is about halfway complete, but I don't think that he will have his spawning pool up in time to really be able to defend against these Zerglings, or at least he will not have Zerglings out by the time that these Zerglings get to his base. We're going to have to wait and see though. Actually no, it looks like the spawning pool finishing up pretty early, and this drone's going to do a good job of basically mis-rallying these Zerglings a little bit, making them go just a little bit further away than they really need to. And at the same time, we do see a hatchery down from Kiyoshi, so Kiyoshi knowing that he just has to do a little bit of damage. He has to force some Zerglings out of Ialgo, and what those Zerglings will basically be and represent is not drones. And that's a very important thing. We can see here in the drone count, both of these players sitting at even drone count, so if Kiyoshi can somehow just delay Ialgo from being able to make any more drones without losing too many Zerglings, he will be in a pretty good position as long as he can delay until his hatchery goes down. The Zerglings were target firing down the hatchery, taking a little bit extra damage. Not exactly the best play from Kiyoshi, but Ialgo doing a good job fending off that aggression. We do see additional Zerglings, only Zerglings being produced from both of these players. And I think that, yes, Ialgo is a little bit ahead. Oh, actually no. Kiyoshi already has 2 queens up, so he will be able to send one of those queens over to his natural expansion very soon, and Ialgo has to hold off this Zergling aggression once again. I'm a little bit too surprised he isn't moving down with those Zerglings. He does have a massive amount of Zerglings, taking a good bit of damage there, but keeping them alive thanks to that Zergling speed upgrade. That should be finishing up for Ialgo in just a second. Will he be able to? No, he's not going to try and take advantage of the surprise factor of that finishing up in the middle of an engagement. We do see 1 drone still on gas for Ialgo. This can be used to gather up excess gas for something such as that Roach Warren or Lair Tech or something of the sort. We do see an influx of Zerglings, so coming over to Ialgo's base. I do believe that Ialgo has a good number of Zerglings to fend this off, and we can see here in the Zergling count, we do see that this is not all the Zerglings. There are a couple additional ones here, but the Zergling counts are relatively even, just 1 additional one on Kiyoshi's side, but Ialgo's going to have to be careful as there are additional Zerglings coming in, so Kiyoshi could be in a good position if Ialgo does decide to engage over here very close to his base. That will allow reinforcements to stream in very easily. The Roach Warren is finishing up though. We do, on the other hand, see Banelings coming out for Kiyoshi. 5 Banelings being morphed, so Kiyoshi can do a lot of damage to this high Zergling count, but at the same time, Ialgo's, if he is let to just sit and build up that Roach count, he's going to be looking in a very good position. Now we do see that this Overlord trying to get the scout in on that main base, but he is not able to. If he just moved a little bit further in, or if this Overlord decided to move in, he would see this Roach Warren, but he's not going to right now, and that could cause huge problems in the future. We do see the Zerglings traveling across the map for Kiyoshi. Looks like he also does have these Banelings moving across the map. Gonna have to see whether or not he does decide to go in with that massive Baneling count. I think he needs to at this point, as he is going to be a little... Oh, actually, no, we do see a Roach Warren is already completed for Kiyoshi, so that is going to put him in not as bad of a position as making him out to be. The Zerglings are trying to go in. A couple of Banelings are moving in as well. There are 2 or 3 Roaches, or a couple more popping as well, and it looks like these Banelings can get some great hits off. Oh, wow. That Baneling a pretty decent hit. Oh, my God, so many good hits from those Banelings now, but the Zergling count just not quite high enough from Kiyoshi, as they were slowly but surely picked off by Ialgo's Roaches and his Queens, and actually doing a good job keeping both of these Queens alive, even throwing down the Transfuse from that 3rd Queen that does not need to do the Larva Inject. And I do think that Ialgo looking to be in a pretty decent position at this point. He does have a lead in the Roach count, a slight lead in the Worker count, and does also have that 3rd Queen up, so if he so chooses, and looks like he does choose to, he can begin spreading that creep, so that will give his opponent additional speed. But one important thing to note is that this will give him map control, or at least map vision, so that's going to be very useful. He can also much more easily do that transition to Hydralisk tech if he so chooses. We don't see Lair coming down from either of these players, but we do see an Evolution Chamber coming down for Ialgo. So the blue player Ialgo will be able to get that upgrade advantage if he so chooses, as I don't think that there is any Evolution Chamber down for Kiyoshi. No, there is not. But at the same time, we do see Lair instead being utilized for Kiyoshi, and Kiyoshi saying, hey, I'm going to spend my gas on Lair rather than those upgrades. So he will have the potential tech advantage if he does decide to get out those Infestors or Hydralisks or Mutalisks, depending on what he does decide to do. I don't see this Gas Geyser having been taken for Kiyoshi yet, so I'm a little less inclined to believe it is a Mutalisk transition, but it's still a possibility. A couple of Zerglings moving down, likely to check for the 3rd for Kiyoshi, and we're going to see. It looks like, yep, that is going to be the case. Oh, no, not quite yet. Ialgo gonna idle out here with these Zerglings, maybe just try and catch the drone moving out, but now they do move in. Meanwhile, it looks like Ialgo looking to take a 3rd of his own, so that will pretty much explain why he is moving out with these Zerglings. A couple of these Zerglings getting picked off, but we do see a pretty good Roach count for Kiyoshi. He is sitting at 14 Roaches, so a little bit ahead in the Roach count in comparison to Ialgo, who still has not started his Lair tech. Now this could come back to haunt him if he does decide to go for that 3rd base, and Kiyoshi does decide to make a big push with a number of Roaches, a large number of Roaches, and that Roach speed, or maybe even just a couple of Infestors. But we do see instead the Spire has started, so that is going to put a timer on Ialgo's ability to not deal without that Roach or that Lair tech, and it looks like that Lair tech has begun. Meanwhile, at the same time, he will have that upgrade advantage by the time the Spire does pop. So if he can get out a good number of Hydralisks, Infestors, he will be able to deal with that Spire. At the same time, we do see a Changeling here. Oh, the Changeling getting a good count on how many Roaches were out. They likely did see that these rocks were being knocked down. The 3rd has not been taken just quite yet, but I wouldn't be too surprised to see it being taken in the near future at least. Now the Spire is going to be finishing up in just a quick second, so what that does mean is that Ialgo needs to get out some anti-air of some kind. He does have these 2 Evolution Chambers, so he will be able to produce some Spore Crawlers, but the fact that he has not produced any is a good evidence that he has no idea about that Spire being almost completed, and the Spire is going to complete at the same time that Lair does, so we're going to see, hopefully for Ialgo, he will throw down some kind of tech to deal with those Mutalisks. Hopefully for Kiyoshi he won't though, as it does look like 10 Mutalisks being produced. That's going to be pretty hard to deal with if Ialgo does not get out some kind of anti-air. Now we do see the roaches knocking down the rocks to his third, and at the same time Ialgo, having already knocked down those rocks, has taken a third of his own. So the third's being taken at relatively close times. We do see, Roach Burrow, so that could come into play later on if Ialgo does decide to just go for some kind of big counter attack, as Mutalisks don't kill roaches very fast. So those roaches could use some kind of burrow tactics to try and just survive and the out DPS of these Mutalisks. Mutalisks now popping, so we're going to see whether or not, they are going for that one Overlord, and that is going to queue up couple of Spore Crawlers for Ialgo. Ialgo does need to defend against these Mutalisks without taking too much damage. See here in the worker count, he is up about 9 workers, but it's not enough to really warrant and say, yeah, he does not need to use a ton of Spore Crawlers right now, as he is so far away from getting any kind of tech up to deal with these Mutalisks. And we do see the Infestation Pit just now starting. The Mutalisks are doing a good job picking off the Overlords. They're going for that free damage, not trying to say, hey, surprise, I have Mutalisks. So a good play from Kiyoshi. The Mutalisks are going to go ahead and move in, see what kind of damage they can do. The Queens are going to ward them off just a little bit, but Ialgo has to be very careful with these Queens. Does not want to get his Queens picked off, as that could put him behind on Larva Injects. He's already getting supply block. Meanwhile, we do see actually an Infestation Pit started for Kiyoshi as well. So Kiyoshi looking to transition out of this, again, just try and get some free damage, a little bit of map control by picking off some of those Overlords. And it looks like the third was cancelled from Ialgo, so Ialgo is not going to be looking to be in a great economic position in a little bit. Once Kiyoshi starts matching Ialgo's worker count, or at least starts mining from his 5th and 6th gas geysers, he's going to be looking to be in a great position. The Mutalisks doing a lot of damage, but Ialgo's had enough. He's just going to go out and see what he can do. But this Overlord from Kiyoshi does spot that these roaches are moving out, so the Mutalisks are going to go ahead and try and do as much harassment to these roaches as possible. A couple of infestors are being produced. We're going to see whether they can even get in there over there in time, and it's really going to come down to how much damage those Mutalisks can do before the roaches can do a massive amount of damage. Now the roach count is not nearly as high for Kiyoshi as it is for Ialgo, but there are quite a few Zerglings. The third is picked off for Kiyoshi, so that advantage will be gone. We're going to see if Ialgo can put on any more damage. It looks like if he does decide to go for it, he will be able to slap with the Infestation, but not quite 1-40 situation though. The Mules are coming in and the Zerglings are getting cleaned up. There are still quite a few roaches for Ialgo, and he will be able to deal a lot of damage to these other roaches. The upgrade count again is so far in favor of Ialgo, 2-1 versus 0-0, so I do think he will be able to clean up all of the roaches for Kiyoshi. Additional roaches starting to be produced, but this Mutalisk count is getting out of control, out of hand. Now he will be able to utilize that burrow if he so chooses, but an Overseer can easily be morphed in, as he does have that lair attack. A couple more of these roaches trying to target down that Queen. How many Queens are left on the field? Looks like this Queen's going to be picked off, and that's going to kill off all of the Queens for Kiyoshi, so that could put him very far behind on Larva Injects, and that could really do a number on Zakami, as that third was also sniped, but he's going to have to be very careful. Ialgo, of the counterattack from these Mutalisks, as all of the roaches are now cleaned up, and Ialgo's going to have to be so gosh darn careful. He needs to be very good about getting those money fungals with these infestors. Now he does have a couple of infestors positioned in the main, a couple of infestors positioned, I think, underneath here. No, actually does not. Just sitting around with the infestors in the main for now. Does have a couple of roaches here as well to maybe deal with any kind of counter aggression attacks. Is trying to take that third, as he might suspect that Kiyoshi is trying to retake his own third. And I was talking again before about how Kiyoshi could really use those 5th and 6th gas geysers immediately, but and it looks like Kiyoshi agrees with me, is going to try and do the same. Now, Kiyoshi is going to go ahead and go for that free damage once again. He knows that his Mutalisks count is so out of control right now, and that there are going to be those infestors waiting in the main for him, likely. So he's going to just go ahead and try and pick off as many Overlords as possible, shut down any map vision, so that Ialgo will not have a great idea to see when Kiyoshi does decide to move out. Now, he is going to move over here, and probably more likely than not pick off this third, as these Queens, this Queen number is out of control. It's going to be able to do a lot of damage to the Mutalisks. Oh my god, a money fungal! These are the fungals I was talking about. He has to chain them though, and it looks like the third is going to be canceled, but so many of these Noodles are going to go down, and that's going to kill a huge advantage that Kiyoshi had over Ialgo. Wow, all of the Noodle is almost popping, and it looks like that is going to actually spell game. Kiyoshi, I feel like he maybe could have at least tried to stick it out. Oh, did he accidentally cancel that third? Very interesting, but I mean, Kiyoshi was in a pretty rough position, but I feel by no means should he have really just absolutely just given up there. Even if he was more than likely than not just going to lose, it was still worth a shot, as if Ialgo somehow slipped behind on his macro, I still think he could have come back into this game. Maybe some just clutch fungals on his enemies' infestors, Ialgo's. But that is going to wrap it for this game. Thank you so much to Ialgo for submitting this replay. And if you want your replays casted, you can submit them over to feardragon64@gmail.com. If you want to participate in my event called Balance Battles, you can show up on my stream, twitch.tv/feardragon64, and show up around 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And it's an event called Balance Battles. You can go ahead and check out the Team Liquid thread. So anyways, I think that's pretty much it. I'll let you guys go. So thank you so much for tuning in. Have a nice one, guys.